Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everybody. Hypnotherapy can be so impactful to improving your life in so many different ways. I did not know it existed for these uses. Now, I knew that you could do hypnotherapy for weight reduction, and she certainly does support that, but also other health issues, including chronic health issues. Didn't even know that it would address that. We're going to address that today. She's a hypnotherapist, clinical hypnotherapist, and has all that insight. And she's Palki Mawar. She joins us here on the program. Welcome.
Thank you for having me here, Steve. Good to be here.
Same. I'm a big fan of hypnotherapy. I've had it done for different things, limiting beliefs, things like that, things that might hold us back. And of course, smoking I've heard of, and weight reduction, heard of that before too. But you are a certified medical support clinical hypnotherapist. I didn't know that it did so many things to support the health issues that we may be going through, including cancer. Could you give some insight on that?
Sure. So I think there's just kind of my background is also in holistic health. So I have done a whole study in Ayurveda. And one of the things that is kind of different or unique about my training is that I've had actual doctors, medical doctors, who were part of the faculty for my hypnotherapy training and also for the holistic health. So perhaps this is something where, there's like this avenue of where science meets spirituality. So a lot of times we think that, oh, this sounds more like a woo-woo practice or a spiritual practice. It has more of it's kind of a theme that scientists would otherwise reject. However, there's studies going on with regards to the impact of when you focus on some aspect. I don't know what that study was, but it had to do with this particle, the observation of particles that were kind of moving, and then they were waves, and then when they were observed, they would turn into particles. So it's like, there are studies when you focus on something, your focused attention will start to change the quality of that which you are observing. So so I would say that is kind of the root of how the system works, how hypnotherapy works to help one resume health. At this point, it is more of an adjunct to medical treatment. So it's not like, okay, with hypnotherapy, you're just going to cure your cancer. It's not about that. It's more like, how can hypnotherapy support the treatment that you are going through and help you get more in that space where, okay, this ends up being beneficial to you or you heal completely from it. And that's where we introduce the mind. So having these thoughts that support your treatment. So for example, if you are going through cancer treatment, to actually have this focus, have your mind focus on those cancer cells actually shrinking. And that, the doctors are moving with divine intelligence in order to bring you the best treatment possible, and that your body is healing. So having that focus of your own mind on your healing process to help impact the outcome. So I think, I'm kind of putting two and two together from everything that I've learned here. Mm-hmm. So for me, it sounds more like, that theory of when you observe something or you focus on that, then it kind of, it shifts the quality of that which you are focusing on. So the same thing with your treatment. It's like when you are focused on your treatment and you send those thoughts or you send that observation and you actually observe, okay, these cancer cells are shrinking. You observe that and it becomes real for you. So the process is not just thinking about it and going into fantasy mode. It's really about going deep within you and actually feeling that. So connecting that with your feeling mind.
Well, it's been said before that what we think becomes our reality. i.e., manifesting or whatever it might be, and also how what we deal with on a daily basis. Let's look at stress. After time, I've heard it goes right down to the cellular level of how it impacts your body. So, would stand to reason that if you focused on that cancer treatment healing and done properly through hypnotherapy, it's going to work. Quick story I'll share, and this was my opening to this. Uh, Number of years ago, I took a fall. It was coming out of the ceiling. It was a July 4th weekend. I was getting a boogie board and I was in the attic and I just literally rode the stairs down and impacted on the cement floor. Didn't get injured bad, little substantial road rash from the railing and all of that, but my foot impacted on the cement. I got a wart, a big one. Never had one before. Went to the podiatrist. He did some stuff, didn't go away. Went back again, did some stuff, didn't go away. Went back again. Nothing's working. Like, doctor, this I still have a wart. It's uncomfortable. It's like what's going on here? He goes, I've done what I can do. You need to will it to go away. And I'm like, I'm paying this guy? Sure, okay. So I left and I just focused, I concentrated on my foot and that wart to go away.
Mm.
2 days later, it was gone.
Wow.
Eh,
So you've seen you've seen the power of focused
yes.
intention for yourself. There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. This controls all of this and is way more powerful than we would ever imagine. But you got to realize that we've been around for so long in terms of evolution for a reason, because this machine, i.e., the body, is designed so amazingly that it can even heal itself if you give it what it needs. And many times we're not giving it what it needs in terms of stress, not enough sleep, alcohol, smoking, all of that stuff going on there. And then we have chronic issues. But I never knew that, even right down to bladder issues, that hypnotherapy can help. I don't want to say heal, but it could potentially if the the mindset is there.
Well, of course, we've got to respect, I wouldn't use the term hypnotherapy will heal you,
Sure.
but because we've got to respect, what the current understanding is in the mainstream, or what the government understands in terms of the term heal, and to make that claim
Yeah.
and to say, so it's not to have people completely ignore Western medical treatment and just to come
Sure.
to hypnotherapy. That's not how it works. However, there have been instances where, there's nothing else that the Western medical system could do for people. And then they've sought hypnotherapy to seek, and then they've seen, results. So there have been those cases as well that I don't think should be ignored. I mean, it can
Hmm.
definitely raise questions as to maybe in certain scenarios it is possible. However, working with people, what I've noticed, it really depends on the individual. So if there
Mm.
are individuals who strongly believe that, who's going to save me, it's going to be God or my doctor, then yeah, I would not have, that would not be someone that might benefit much from hypnotherapy. But it really depends on the orientation of the person. And there are some people who are they have more of a sense of belief in their own healing capacities. Like, no, I have, what I need is within me. And I
Yep.
think for that type of a person, hypnotherapy might actually be a better option than, the
Sure.
Western medical treatment.
Sure. Or in
I say that
conjunction
from
with.
my own experience as well, and you've seen that for yourself.
Oh, and I want to know about your experience, but what you just
Mhm.
said resonates with me. I live by this one phrase, and I started this about 3 years ago. All I need is within me now. All I need is within me now. We have everything we need. And why don't we change it in terms of what hypnotherapy can do? How about we say it can help support your healing? So we're not saying it's going to heal you, but it can help support your healing. Your journey, please explain.
Sure. So one instance that I came across was years ago when I was I was attending a healing arts workshop where, there was a lot of jumping and things of that nature. And I ended up hurting my knee. I had this really bad knee sprain where I'm not sure what happened, but it almost felt like my bone kind of got the knee joint just got out of its socket, and I would just fall. And for a while, I thought initially maybe, it's just a sprain. I'm just gonna, get up the next day and I'll be fine. But what ended up happening was it just kept getting worse, and I literally could not. It even hurt to walk.
Mm.
And I was like, let me go to my PCP and get it checked out. So she checked everything out. I had x-rays done. I had everything. And all she would, she's like, I'm not seeing anything in the x-rays that is showing me that it's like that you've broken anything inside or anything like that. She ended up giving me a lot of painkillers, and, but I didn't come to a place where I could walk properly. And I was literally in tears. And at that time I was a pretty active person. So I enjoyed going to the gym a lot. And for 6 months, I just could not go to the gym. And I was like, I'm not sure what to do. And that's when I watched this master hypnotherapist being interviewed on podcast. And I was like, and this was someone that I had worked with before, but at that time I was like, I don't know if this is something that she can help me with. But I listened to her, and by the laws of the universe, for whatever reason, that day she was talking about how you can use the power of your mind to heal your body. So she went through this technique. She just talked about how it worked, and it was about, how some of the things that are in our bodies as health issues have an emotional component behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So how, when we can actually go into the roots of what that is, and start to release that stuck emotion or whatever that energy is out there, and it can free up that space, and it can help you recover. So just from listening to that, I started to intuitively apply that to my knee. And I went into this state where I was like starting to talk to that part of my body and to see what's actually there and what are the emotions that are just allowing things to happen. And I just had this huge emotional release. And it was interesting because
Wow.
I cried. And once I was done, my like 80% of my pain went away. I could finally, like, I had movement again. And over the next few days, I continued to have that emotional release, because I think it was kind of, it was releasing in segments. So, and then within the next 10 days or so, I could go back to the gym. I was like, I even forgot how it was.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was like, wow. And then I started to think to myself that I did this just from listening to this master hypnotherapist, and I was able to apply this intuitively. And I wonder what the potential is if I could learn this formally, and how I could help people with this. So that was actually one of those turning points for me, that I was like, let me just look into, a formal study in hypnotherapy.
Your story is kind of similar to mine in a way, where we had an issue, we willed it, we thought it, and, whatever means, hypnotherapy or just willing it to go away. Let's talk about what's going on during hypnotherapy, because I believe a lot of people gravitate away from it or make it the last thing that they try because they're afraid of losing control, or thinking that the hypnotherapist is going to control your mind, which is so not the truth, right?
Which is actually not the truth, but I don't blame them for feeling that
Right.
way. Most folks, I think, so I grew up watching that there was a TV show, one of my favorites, really, The Twilight Zone.
Mm-hmm.
So in that, oftentimes the characters would look at this concentric circle, and then they would just kind of go, their minds would kind of go into space, and sometimes they would find themselves in a different timeline or somewhere else, and sometimes they would even get stuck there. And that was kind of my idea of how the mind can be a dangerous place, or someone can play with your mind. And also stage hypnosis, right?
Ah, yeah. Yeah.
So
You're
I'm not
getting sleepy.
and I'm not surprised. Like sometimes I might have a question from someone who's interested, like, oh wow, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna make me like quack like a duck or something like
Right.
that? Like, oh, so I understand where that comes from because hypnosis has been portrayed by media for entertainment purposes. So, and a lot of that is just entertainment. And oftentimes I think people associate that with what will really happen or
Exactly.
no true education of how it really works. So that's where someone like me can come in and clarify those doubts because hypnosis, although it's portrayed as something that where you give up your the control of your mind to someone else, it actually does the opposite. So it actually gives you greater control of your mind, and therefore we have hypnotherapy. So I can't really make you like quack like a duck unless that's what you really want to do. But if that's what you want to do, then I can help you access those resources within you to, so that in that which you will believe that you are a duck and you will quack like a duck. But, it's not something that I can make you do against your will.
I
So,
liken it to you're giving us the keys to our mind, specifically the subconscious. That's where this all is happening. And I guess we should share that 95% or 90 something percent of everything we do every moment is the subconscious. It's like we're on autopilot. 5 or so% is the conscious, but all that, call it the negative stuff, the limiting beliefs, all that, those things that we need to address if we want to move our lives forward is stuck in the subconscious. And you're just handing us the keys to access it. We're accessing it. You're not.
well, that's a beautiful way to put it and understand it. So, in that sense, that's what a hypnotherapist does. They really, I mean, a hypnotherapist would give you the keys to access your own subconscious mind.
Sure.
And in that sense, in hypnotherapy, we say all hypnotherapy is really self-hypnosis. It's really you going down, you doing all the work. All I do is use techniques to help you do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with regards to, all of these programmings, you hit it. I mean, you've had hypnotherapy before, so you understand that 90% of our mind is really subconscious. And there's only, it's less than 10% that is conscious.
Yeah.
And we try to use our conscious mind to achieve our goals, and we try to will things, use our conscious will. However, we don't realize that a lot of the power to do or achieve what we really want lies with the subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
An image that I would kind of, like to bring up to for greater clarity here is to think of, and one of my teachers, this is borrowed from one of my teachers. So think of the subconscious mind as this wild giant horse, and the conscious mind as this thin naked rider um, that is sitting facing the opposite ways, facing the horse's tail, trying to guide this giant horse into a specific direction. So that's the situation. It's just kind of an analogy to address the situation that most folks might feel. I want to go there, but gosh, how come I'm not doing it? How come it's not happening? And that's a situation because we haven't acknowledged that the power lies with this giant force that is wild and untamed, and it's our subconscious mind. So it's about establishing that connection that you can't ignore that. In order for
Mm.
you to have the power, you must get in touch with that part of you. So, this was just an analogy to kind of help understand this relationship between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind.
Totally. And even the self hypnosis, like true self hypnosis, it can be done. I just from being hypnotized use those techniques, and I've hypnotized myself. And there was one time I was at a meeting. This was about 6 weeks ago. And they said, take some time. We're going to take a couple of minutes here. You can meditate. You can do whatever you want. I was like, let me try it. It was a quiet room. There was like 300 people in the room. And I'm like, I put myself into a hypnotic state. It was wonderful. I was just relaxing. And without warning, they come back on the microphone. Okay, we're ready. I'm like, what? It's like complete woke me up. Um, but let me be careful in what I'm saying here. You're fully awake, whether you hypnotize yourself or somebody does it for you. Any sessions I've ever been through, if I wanted to end the session at any time, I would just say, no, I don't want to do it. I'm good. We're done. It's not like I'm in some trance and in some other place in my mind. I can just stop it at any moment. But I didn't want to, because what I was looking at in this particular session, and I'm just sharing so people understand, I was looking at my childhood. It was like watching my younger self on TV. I didn't want it to end so I could put the pieces together, because many of us, whatever happened in our childhood, and we could have a normal childhood, but we still have issues later in life. Um, I wanted to connect the dots. It was amazing. It was fantastic.
So that's yeah, that's brilliant. And I think that's what it is to have that clear access to your subconscious mind. You can go into it at any point. It kind of reminds me of a question that someone asked me, and it was like, "Oh, how long will I be under
Hmm.
when you hypnotize me?" And I love that question, because a lot of people, they're like, what is it like? Like, is it going to be like an anesthesia-like effect where
Right, right.
I'll be knocked unconscious? And that's a good point. And it can create a lot of fear. It's like, gosh,
Sure.
will I zonked out? And what really happens, it actually creates heightened awareness. So you are in this deep state of relaxation. However, you are highly aware of everything that's going on. And one of the things that people experience is, any tiny sound, it's like your senses are heightened as well. Your
Hmm.
sense of hearing, your sense of, there is no question of you not knowing what's going on around you. You are very aware because
Yeah.
your senses are heightened. So yeah, I kind of related that to, if you were startled by the person that came to wake you up, it's like, because you probably like the sound was like
Yeah.
your heightened awareness. It's
I
like,
was loving it. I was just so relaxed. And that's, the other part of it. It is very relaxing. Um, we have a few minutes left. Can you
mhm.
tell us the things that hypnotherapy can help with? Now, we identified smoking, weight loss, limiting beliefs. What are some of the other things?
Some of the other things that hypnotherapy can help with are athletic performance.
Oh, hmm.
Yeah. So that is, definitely something where you can use the power of your mind and activate your inner coach. So, if you're into playing a particular sport and you want to get better at it, then that is something that you can use the faculties of your mind to kind of see yourself at a distance, and to coach yourself internally, and to have certain cues where, and even with competitions, it's like, how do you see your opponent? And a lot of it,
Hmm.
like, it goes back to a lot of competitions. It's not so much about how much strength you have or what you can do physically. It's more about mindset. So it goes
Wow.
like, yeah. So that is another something else that hypnotherapy can help with. It can help with improved academic performance. And as I said, there are, there's more evidence. There's like more studies that people can actually look up around medical hypnotherapy, where you know um, certain techniques have been used to reduce pain, to accelerate healing, and I've actually worked with people who've had a chronic health issues. There's a lady that I worked with, who had chronic UTIs ever since she was a teenager, and now she was in her 50s. And obviously it was kind of a hindrance with relationship to her husband and other things in her life. And within a few sessions, she didn't have that anymore. And then
Huh.
it was like, well, Palki, I'm feeling kind of weird because I'm expecting it to come, and it feels weird that it's not coming. So then we helped her get it, because sometimes it can feel a bit miraculous, but it's not. There is a proper way of how it works. But then it can take people a while to get used to something new, because the mind is still expecting. There's part of the conscious mind that's like, oh, I'm supposed to have this episode again. And then we worked on clearing that and helping her get used to this new reality.
Wow.
So yeah, so these
we're out of time. We just keep going. There's so many things to talk about, learn, even, if we had time, even give an example of how you start a session with somebody. Fantastic. Palki, how do we connect with you?
Sure, I can be reached. People can visit me on my website. It's www.palkimawarhypnotherapy.com. They can also email me, and my email is info@palkimawarhypnotherapy.com.
Got it. And just want everybody to know PALKIMAWAR hypnotherapy.com, right?
That's correct.
Awesome.
Yes.
Great having you on. You're like a breath of fresh air when it comes to hypnotherapy. You have a lot of energy and obviously a lot of passion for helping people. And I appreciate all the insight and for you being here today.
So thank you so much for having me here, Steve.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.